Right. Well, we're starting this new series called When You Know. And there's always kind of a controversy when you talk about knowing the truth with a soft N, the K-N, know. You know, what does that do? Is it a tool? Is it a technique? Is it a practice? No, it's none of those things. It's nothing that you do. And the outer, it's what you are. It's what you are. And didn't Jesus say, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free? What does that say? How powerful it is. How transformative it is to know, to internalize thought such that it liberates you to live a different life. Does anybody remember there was a series on Channel 7, or what was it, ABC television network? They used to have these little spot announcements, and they'd tell you something really valuable, like, and then it would say, the more you know at the end, the more you know, blah, 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 you know. And they'd tell you something like, if you put cold water on a blood stain, it doesn't set it, but if you put hot water on it, it does, and it'll come out. And the same with mud. If you put cold water on a mud stain rather than hot water, it doesn't set it. And I think that's so beautiful, that mud is the blood of the earth. Just like our blood, mud acts the same way. So cool. Well, the more you know, ... the more empowered you are. And that's what we're going to talk about today. When you know who you are. And so often I find myself, like somebody says, or I say, I already know that. And the fact is, well, if I knew it, I wouldn't have chose what I chose. You know? So it's not true to say, I already know, if you're choosing the opposite of what you would choose if you really knew that you were divine. If you're experiencing distress and despair that you would not experience if you really knew the power that you have within you. Because, you see, we emerge from our identity. We show up in the world, we come forth, we emerge from the identity that we hold, from who we think we are. So many experiences coalesce to form a belief system about who we are. These beliefs are held in the substrata of consciousness, what we call the subconscious mind. That's our metaphysical. That's why we're a metaphysical group. Metaphysics, we talk about the nature of consciousness, which you can't see, you can't touch, it's unseen. But its results can be seen. It is our work. It is our work. Do you hear me? It is our work in healing ourselves, in healing our past, to unravel and unpack the impact of past experiences on who we believe we are. I'll say that again. That's, because it's not who we really are. It's who we believe we are because of the impact of experiences of the past. That's what we have to heal. So I want to take a break here to talk about a Bible story that's been coming up in my mind. And it sort of obliquely pertains to when you know who you are, because this is a story about Paul, the Apostle Paul. Didn't I put the Bible up here? No. Okay, so I'll just get it right here. And it's in the second half of Acts. The first part of the Acts tells about how all of the disciples gathered for Pentecost and the things that they did to, survive persecution of the Christians. And then there's the conversion of Paul. And then that's the second half of Acts, the second part. And Paul, he has this conversion experience. We all know the story, right? I won't go into that. It's a glorious, glorious tale. But most people don't realize, because it's kind of glossed over. When I looked at the Bible Project video of Acts, they glossed over it. They just said, and so Paul and his followers went into different cities and caused a lot of trouble. People didn't like them, and they got, usually they got run out or put in jail or whatever. But one story, I think it's the 17th chapter of Acts. I just got to tell you this as a story, because it's just comical. So, so Paul and Silas went into this city. I can't remember the name of it now, and I can't see either. So they went into a city, and there was a lady who told fortunes. She was a divination person, and she was a slave owned by these two men who made their living from her telling fortunes. And it says for 2 weeks she was following Paul around saying, listen to this man, he is a man of God, he knows the truth, he's the one. You should listen to him. And what does Paul do? Being the obsessive compulsive kind of person, kind of wrapped really tight person, he gets really annoyed with her, and he tells the spirit to get out of her and stop. And he actually heals her of her divination abilities. And so the two men who own her, who are making their living from exploiting her as a slave to tell fortunes, now they can't make their living anymore. So they have Paul thrown in jail for that. Not just thrown in jail, stripped and flogged. Did you hear this before, Elaine? This is something. And so Paul and Silas are sitting in the prison cell, and they tell the prison guard, you got to keep these people, these Christians who ruined our scam here. You got to keep them in jail and don't let them get out. So Paul and Silas start singing hymns of praise to God. And it doesn't say that the prisoners join in. It just says that the prisoners see that as they're singing, there's such a quake that the doors of the prison are shaken loose and they fly open. And what do Paul and Silas do? Nothing. They don't leave. And then Paul says, don't leave, prisoners, don't leave, because we'll get the jailer in trouble. So then the jailer wakes up because he hears all this commotion, and he comes over to the jail and he says, oh man, I'm going to have to kill myself now because they're going to hang me for the prisoners getting loose. And Paul calls out, don't harm yourself, we're still here. And so long story short, the jailer is so grateful that he and his whole family, his whole household, believed on Jesus Christ. And that's the end of the story. But that's when you know who you are, is that, Paul knew who he was. He didn't have to get out of the jail to be free. He had compassion for the jailer. He had compassion for everyone except that slave girl. I don't know. Because, the whole context of the Bible is very anti-psychism. And now we consider that as part of spiritual gifts. We don't make a god of it, but we don't think people would be gifted with it if it wasn't meant for our good. So that's something that has changed in the historical perspectives. But yeah, so that's why Paul was put in jail, was for healing a slave girl of her of her divination. And then he sung the gates open, and when they flew open, he didn't even escape. thereby saving the life of the jailer. And then the jailer, he and his whole house believed on Jesus Christ. I love the way they say that. Believed on Jesus Christ. You know, just realized, accepted that here is a new dispensation. Here is a new energy. Here is the arrival of a new way of living, a new possibility for existence. So that's what we're on. We're on that journey. So the important thing here is not to get wrapped up in our past experiences. When you know who you are set free from the past. But you still have to let it come up to be healed. So how do you get to that system of limited error thought? How do you unravel that interconnected web of ideas that are a trap that contaminate your consciousness? Newsflash, our souls are self-cleansing and self-healing. If we listen, the wounds of the past will rise up and present themselves for healing. And evidence of that is this book that was given to me called The Presence Process. Anybody heard of that book? By a man named Michael Brown. And this book was so powerful that it earned him a place in what I call the Dog and Pony Show Brat Pack, the New Age Dog and Pony Show Brat Pack. He's one of the main presenters now, Michael Brown. He is an Australian man. He was a rock band player. He played in rock bands and toured all over the place. And he got a diagnosis of an incurable disease, which was cluster headaches. And people have committed suicide from the pain of the cluster headaches. They're worse than migraines. And he was told that there is no cure and there is no treatment. And good luck. Sorry. We don't know what causes it and we don't know how to cure. So he decided to go on a quest to find a way to heal this illness that he had. And he kept a journal, and he went to indigenous cultures, he saw all kinds of alternative healers, and he came up with this book called The Presence Processes, which is a synthesis of everything he learned about healing. Now, I was given this book by a woman named Joni Grafeo, who was my supervisor when I worked in the prayer room ministry in Silent Unity. I consider supervisors of Silent Unity prayer ministry to be like a different species. They're like, they're so advanced souls, I feel. And so she told me, she said, I just bought 2 copies of this book because I like it so much, one for me and one for somebody else, and I just think you're the person I want to give it to. So she gave it to me. So I read it, of course, and I followed step by step what he said to do, even though I didn't really have a symptom I was trying to cure, but I was just curious to see what would happen. I'm not going to tell you what the process is. Well, it's just mainly sitting and being absolutely without thought twice a day. And what happens? It's amazing. Things come up in your memory that you didn't even know were there. And you have the opportunity then to forgive them, to dissolve them, to transform them, to overcome them, to simply process them. Yeah. But when you really, really encounter the truth, the eternal reality of your own being, that becomes the reason. It becomes the binding, the backbone of your entire awareness, of your sentience. You get that? When you really, really encounter the truth of your being, which is done in that state, an altered state of consciousness, the state of meditation, then that becomes your reason for being. It becomes the motivation for all that you do. It becomes the energy that moves you into an experience of deep joy, deep love, deep peace. So there are two emergences here. One is the emergence out of conditioning and conclusions that have been formed out of the way we interpreted our experiences, unraveling the past. And the other emergence is the experience at a deep level of your spiritual essence, that love that you are, the power that you are. Now, this is the area of consciousness that we call the superconscious. I sometimes wonder if superconscious is an old word, but it doesn't seem to have become unmodern. You know, we use the prefix super to mean accelerated, expanded, way beyond. So yeah, the experience at a deep level of your spiritual essence is what we call the superconscious. That's the awareness within you that's connected to the one, the whole, the all. Now this is what our lives are about. This is what our lives contain, you see, is the exploration of our inner realm and the awakening to the realm of consciousness that we belong in, that we are part of. That's our lives. That's our journey. When you know who you are in a continuing engagement with the experience. It's not just like, okay, I know who I am, next. No. It's a continuing, ongoing, dynamic experience of discovering and transforming and transcending and being triumphant and living as that very God of whom you really are. That very God that is so dearly sought. That is who you truly, truly are. Amen. You know, people have said, how do you like doing 2 services on a Sunday? And I say it's like the difference between having 1 roller coaster ride and 2 roller coaster rides. And this is the part that is the apex. This is the part that is the real roller coaster ride that I want to say is the thrill. Yeah. So let's relax. Become attuned and receptive to the unseen realm of consciousness where we are the beloved. Jesus' first step into ministry was to be baptized when the Spirit of God descended like a dove and said, "This is my beloved, in whom I am well pleased." And that is who we are. And that is what Spirit is constantly conferring to us. You are the beloved, in whom I am well pleased. And feeling that, we take this affirmation into the silence. I am one with the one. Let these words be your words. I am one with the one. No separation. All is unfolding in order harmony, understanding, as light radiates from within, casting out any darkness as we dwell in the silence. For we are beautifully and wondrously made. These mysteries we behold. Amen.